Welcome to Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. On this podcast, we journey through the devastating experience of the death of a child. Grief is seldom discussed openly in our culture, and the death of a child makes people feel even more uncomfortable. We approach the topic openly and honestly, speaking to people who have lost loved ones and experts who help care for them. Whether you are a parent experiencing loss or someone who wants to support another going through this tragedy, this podcast strives to offer hope and help.
Welcome to episode number 292 of Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. I'm Marcy Larson, Andy's mom. Today, I have the pleasure to introduce you to Erin. Erin is Keenan's mom. And actually, some of you may be familiar with Keenan. I don't know. Keenan became quite the YouTube sensation during his teenage years. In fact, when I look on YouTube right now, it says that Keenan Cahill had 424,000 subscribers. When I look at the first video I saw of him, it had 58 million views. So this was quite popular. And I would advise you, if you have a spare minute, go on YouTube and type in Keenan Cahill, and you will see some of these hilarious videos that he did. So we're going to talk about those later on and how those were kind of a part of his life. But obviously, we're talking a lot today just about Erin and Erin's journey and what her personal grief journey has been like after the loss of her son, Keenan. Now, if you would like to be on the podcast, I would love for you to email me. So you email me, Marcy, M-A-R-C-Y, @andysmom.com. And if you just want to share your story with me, great. If you would like to be on the podcast, that's great too. But I always love to hear from listeners and hear a little bit of their own personal stories as well. Right now, though, I just want you to sit back and listen to Erin, Keenan's mom. Thank you so much, Erin, for coming on the Always Andy's Mom podcast today.
Well, thank you for having me, Marcy.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking to you. I have to say, you sent me an email and I was very intrigued because you sent me an email and then a link to your son's YouTube, and I could not stop listening. He was making me laugh and so funny. So I know we're going to get into that later, but it just got me very excited to talk to you, to the woman who raised such a funny, amazing kid that you could see just from the first seconds to minutes of watching him on YouTube. I just loved it.
It was a crazy part of our lives. It really was. It changed in an instant, in a good way.
Right. Well, good. I'm glad it was in a good way. I am glad it was in a good way. But I do want you to start out by going way back. So we're going to go way back before YouTube, and we'll start talking about Keenan, just who he kind of was, and even from birth. So if you could go ahead and just start telling his story, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can start the fabulous day that he was born. It was the first day of spring, March 20th, 1995. I wanted a girl, but I had a boy. I'm like the oldest out of 5 girls. So that's
what you knew.
I know.
Yeah.
So I had a boy, and everything seemed to be fine until, as he was going through his milestones, he wasn't meeting them. I was a first-time mom. He's the oldest and my only son. So I'm like, what am I looking out for? He's not crawling. He can't sit up. So finally, we were at his 12-month checkup, and I'm talking to the pediatrician, and he said, he fell off the height and weight chart. And I'm like, oh my, what does that mean? It was nothing. We can always set an endocrinology appointment up if things, don't
turn around or whatever. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God, what the heck is that with a doctor? I've never even heard of that. So I kind of freaked out. We ended up, long story short, I moved a little too fast maybe, but I just felt as a mother, something wasn't right. He's looking different. His head was always large to me. A friend of mine had a child who was 6 months older than Keenan, but she towered over him, and it just looked different. It was like he was so tiny.
Yeah.
But we went to Mayo Clinic, and it took a while, but eventually we got our diagnosis, which was Mucopolysaccharidosis Type VI. So it's caused by a recessive gene. He doesn't have the enzyme to break down complex sugars, and eventually there's buildup within his system. It attacks his liver, his spleen. You have short stature, bone deformity, cornea clouding. So his eyesight is affected. So with that diagnosis at around 2, it was around 2, H2, it was really tough. We had to kind of regroup. My husband and I at the time were like, what are we going to do? And then the doctor said, there is an option to have a bone marrow transplant. It's not a cure. It just will slow the progression of the disease down. But depending on what his diagnosis is, which we knew it was MPS type 6, but is he severe or is he mild? And it came back that he was severe.
So, and that's just obviously a devastating diagnosis to get when you know that you're not going to be able to cure it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you think there are so many diseases that are devastating when you hear, but even a cancer diagnosis, you've got this chance that it's going to be 100% cure and that you'll be able to be okay. With this, you knew that wasn't going to be the case unless there's some, miraculous discovery that changes all modern medicine, really. You're not going to be able to cure this. And so what is the difference then between that mild and severe cases? Were you told about that, what to kind of expect?
No, not really. My focus was, I want my child to be around for the rest of his life. I mean, there was no end date for me.
Right.
So my question to them was more, if we do this bone marrow transplant, which is a risk at the time, what's our guarantee? What ages are we looking at for his lifetime? And they said up to 40 to 60. So I'm thinking 40 to 60, that's fabulous.
Right.
Better than a cancer diagnosis.
Right.
So that's really my focus. That was, we were going into the unknown. Just getting through bone marrow transplant was really very difficult.
Yeah.
And then after a bone marrow transplant, right immediately after 100 days in the hospital, he went into triple hernia surgery. Most of the kids have I don't know if it's a weak stomach where they develop hernia. And so we triple hernia surgery. And then we were out, spent 4 months in Ronald McDonald, and then we're sent home. And then after that, they said 5% go back into the hospital with complications. And we were one of the 5%. We were in the clear. We went home after 4 months. And then things seemed to be going well until we had carpal tunnel problems. And so we had carpal tunnel surgery. And then stapling of his growth plate. And then fast forward, when you're a bone marrow transplant patient, you are followed by cardiologists to endocrinology to, I'm trying to remember what, orthopedics. So you go up once a year and this is what you do. And it was a part of our life.
And you were doing all that at the Mayo Clinic then?
This was...
So you're driving up?
University of Minnesota.
Okay, yeah. Up in the Twin Cities, yeah.
Because we were a donor transplant. So Mayo Clinic didn't do, they only did related donor.
Okay.
At the time, this was in 1997. So that was our home away from home. And Keenan actually thought it was vacation. So every year we would pack up and he'd get everything ready, so excited to get in the car to go and see doctors. But this was the norm. This is all.
Yeah.
And then he had reconstruction of his hips. Eventually, clouding of the cornea started progressing. He had stenosis of the brain stem, so we had to get that corrected. He endured a lot through his childhood.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't have a normal childhood, which set him back school-wise. So we had to pull him back a year. But, he had an IEP. We had tutors out the wazoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, things settle down. You just never know with this disease when it's going to pop up. And then we were looking at high school all of a sudden. And then high school began. And he asked for a computer, I'll never forget. And with the computer, it was a desktop, it was an Apple. He sets it up, he knew exactly what to do. He closes the door, everything is all happy. I didn't know what was going on behind the closed doors. I was giving him singing lessons. We would pay for singing lessons because that's what he wanted. So the doors closed, and one day at work, I'm sitting there and my phone rings, and I look down and I'm like, I don't know this number. So I'm like, hello? And this gentleman on the other line said, he identifies himself as Jimmy Kimmel's producer. And he said, Jimmy Kimmel saw your son's video, What Hurts the Most, and we'd like to air it on his show. And I said, what video? And he said, oh my gosh, you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm like, I was so embarrassed. I said, no, I don't. I have to go and look. Anyway, it's the cutest video. I almost fell off my chair. So they aired it, and he used to come into me from time to time. And he's like, Mom, I'm really popular in California. Mom, I'm really popular. My numbers are going up in Paris. I'm like, oh, hon, that's good. I mean,
you have to explain to people what it is that he did on these videos, because they don't know. I mean, some people may know because he's turned into a very famous guy, actually. But go ahead.
When I looked at it, when I got home, I said, Keenan, what's going on? So he showed me the video, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. We're spending all this money on voice lessons and you're lip syncing.
Right.
So I said, okay, hon, that's really cute. Oh, I was fine with it.
Right. So he would take popular music that's was on the radio, and he would lip sync to it and have these little dance moves. And actually what was the most amazing was his eye expressions. His facial expressions were crazy funny. I mean, just so funny, because he'd make these, very funny facial expressions to these words that, obviously, I mean, some of the times it was like a woman singing, and it was, anyway, it was hilarious. You sent this to me, and I'm just falling over laughing. It's so funny.
Well, what happened is that it didn't stop. And then one weekend, I don't know, fast forward a couple more months, maybe even longer, Katy Perry's Teenage Dream comes out.
Yes. That's the first one I think you sent me, was that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm downstairs. He leans over the stairs. We have a staircase. It's like 2 flights. And he leans down and says, Mom, Katy Perry's friend told Katy Perry about my video with Teenage Dream, and she tweeted, you're my teenage dream. So, oh, good. Yeah, Keenan, that's great. So all of a sudden, just after that happened, E! Entertainment, I don't know if they're still around, but they posted this video of Keenan on E! Entertainment all weekend long. His email was blowing up with people asking, can you do a video for us? It was offers, like monetary offers to.
Because how old was he then?
Gosh, he was freshman in high school.
Right. So like 14, 15,
yeah.
Right? 15?
Yeah.
15 probably?
So maybe at age 13, we gave him this computer. So it was a while. But yeah, it hit when he was a freshman. So all of a sudden, I'm looking, and he's got thousands of emails. I don't even know how to decipher what's a scam, what's.
Right.
So someone was very persistent, which ended up being his manager, and saying, I can go through these for you. There's a lot of money here. I think we could help this kid. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, I think that video ended up getting I think it was 6.1 million views. Then after Katy Perry, we were in California doing something. I can't remember, a commercial or something. And he ended up doing a video with 50 Cent, which then brought the YouTube lip syncing to a whole nother level. It just continued. It was at such a high level. This kid was gone every weekend. He was not in town in the state of Illinois. He was traveling to California for the weekend. He'd come back. He studied. He had to get all his homework done. Then the next following weekend, we were in New York. Then it got to where he was traveling to Madrid. We've been to Australia. He's been to Paris 3 times. He just traveled the world, lip syncing. So
Yeah.
it was crazy. I mean, he had bodyguards. We would walk in an airport. I'm thinking nothing of it. He's my child. And so there's lines of people wanting autographs of him. It was just a surreal time of Keenan's life and mine. Family. Camera crews were here all the time. I had Tyra Banks in my home. So
Yeah.
it was nuts.
I mean, it's just so crazy because he had gone through so much, right? I mean, he had such a tough life with all of those surgeries and all of this. And, you know, I mean, it was great that he kept this, you know, kind of zest for life and fun part of him still going, even when so much of life was not fun.
And I think that's, you know, it's sad to say in a way. I think his popularity was he looked different. He was a little kid, but yet he was sort of an adult. And I think they wanted a story behind it. They knew that there was a story, but what was it? And unfortunately, in a way, I wish I didn't do it, but we disclosed what he was struggling with. It just opens the door to people and their opinions, and some not so nice. And that was a little difficult. If they only knew that in between all this fun stuff that he's doing, he's actually on enzyme replacement, which is a 4-hour infusion, and that's weekly. It's, you know, and it didn't stop with the surgeries. He would do surgeries in between his going out and doing videos and traveling. It was
right. And he has a disease that is not going to give you a normal lifespan. I mean, you're thinking, you know, obviously you were certainly hoping he was going to live somewhere between 40 and 60, but that is not the norm when you're born to think, well, at the very best, I'm going to maybe hit 60. That's not how you grow up thinking.
No.
Right? And you obviously raised your son thinking, I hope I outlive him, but I might not.
No, you know, and we treated Keenan like he was no different.
Right.
If that was a good thing, bad thing, but
I think it was a good thing. I think it was a good thing.
And so he felt like, you know, he was invincible. He could do anything anybody else could do. I mean, he joined baseball. You saw him on the soccer field, and I'm like, oh, good golly, hon. The kids are all the way down on one side, and it takes him so long to get down there. I'm like, I don't think soccer's for you. But I didn't want to part, and he's got to figure that out himself. But his dad and I, we just felt that this is what we wanted to do, was treat him no different.
Right. And then let him find what he loved and pursue it.
Right.
And then it turns out it ended up being this, you know, video thing that ended up being something that he could be really good at.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to make the varsity baseball team or the varsity soccer team. That's not happening. But this, he could do.
Right. And it didn't stop there. So after he graduated from high school, it was time for college. And I said, Keenan, you know, pursue your dream. What is your dream? I want to create music. I'm like, oh, God. Okay, so I found a college out in California. We drove his own car that he purchased with adaptation and all. And we drove across country and dropped him off in California. And he started his college career, which was difficult. But I'm like, okay,
right.
I think you're going to do this, Kane. I think you're going to do well. And he did. He graduated. It took him a little bit longer than 4 years, but he did. And he had a bachelor's of science degree in digital music. He's always correcting me. I wish he was here to correct me. But anyway, so he started creating his own music. So that's a part of his YouTube channel also, is some of his music that he's created. So he would put the music together, hire a singer, and that singer would put the lyrics together and they'd sing off of Keenan's music. So
wow. So that really was his dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did his medical stuff maybe get a little worse? Did he have a kind of a decline, or what happened with that.
It's weird how this awful disease, how it works. You just don't know. You can have a clean bill of health one year, and then that next year something pops up and it's like, really? And we're looking at surgery. So he was followed by a cardiologist all his life,
Mhm.
adulthood, and he used to have good echoes. I mean, he was maybe mild, I hang on to the words, trivial, mild stenosis or regurgitation of his mitral valve. Well, then he went to a pediatrician for a long time, and he was in a peds hospital. He's now turning close to 27, like Miss Kate.
Yeah. Time. Time to go. Yeah.
And it's weird, as that transition happened, now I've got a new cardiologist, an adult cardiologist looking at him, and he's like, I'm not liking the mitral valve, how it's looking, and also the aortic is kind of not looking good too. But you know what? We'll do further tests. Maybe it's just your lack of exercise. You're a little overweight, etc. And then after that, he had an episode while he was working up in Madison, and he ended up in the ER. He actually drove himself to the ER because he thought he was having a heart attack. And that kind of turned things into, we need mitral valve replacement and aortic replacement.
Wow.
So we met with a doctor. We met with several doctors. We had a team of doctors. They had a plan in place. Plus, with this disease, it's very difficult to intubate. So just that whole intubation process took planning, along with respiratory issues that comes with the disease. So when it was time to go through the heart surgery, we had 6 months to sit and wait. And Keenan didn't have a really good feeling about this. I mean, he flew through his surgeries. He never complained.
Yeah.
He was such a kid who just went with the flow, just happy-go-lucky. Never really was sad. At least I never saw him sad or struggle. But this surgery he was very scared. So when we went into the surgery, I was always his cheerleader, and I didn't want to be the parent who was like losing herself, and I had to be strong for him.
Right.
I look back at that and I'm like, I don't know. I wish I hugged him a little bit more and, wasn't that real strong cheerleader. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's normal to have those regrets, but you think about what you knew kind of at the time and what you thought he needed at the time was for you to look confident and you to feel confident and for you to kind of fall apart and be weepy and extra huggy and all of that stuff would have probably made him more anxious.
Yeah.
I mean, the way you kept him from being as anxious was showing confidence that it was going to be okay. So I really feel like you probably did the absolute 100% right thing for him in doing that. I know for you, you think, boy, I just wish I would have had one more hug, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was your best way to be a mom to him.
Yeah. He was told that he would have to sit up in a chair, like upright, for the first couple of, I think, weeks when he came home after his heart surgery. So he's got GameCube, all the gaming, because it's the perfect thing to do while you're always in bed, recuperating from a surgery. Anyway, so he set it up downstairs, and we were going to get his chair ready for him, and he had it on the TV, and they told us 7 to 10 days we'd be in the hospital. Well, it ended up it was 15. He had some kidney issues, and so they had to put him on dialysis. So that kind of slowed the healing process up. And when you go through this surgery, sometimes the heart doesn't, I don't know how to describe it, but it loses the spark on time, the timing of, and but so he was looking at, they were going to have to put a pacemaker in after his surgery. So meanwhile, the dialysis is still going on. They were just about to take it off. And I went home that evening. It was Christmas. He opened up all his gifts, and his sister was in from school. We said, you rest, get some food and order it. It was freezing too. We had a horrible Chicago winter, in 2022. And I said, I'm going to go home and I'll be home. I'll be back tomorrow morning. And when I woke up at like 9 o'clock in the morning, I was all dressed to get into the car to go to the hospital. I have 3 dogs too, so I had to also make sure that they were okay. And there was a doctor who called and said, you have to come down here. There has been, I don't even know what you would want to call it. And so I got down there and the chief of cardiology was working on Keenan. What happened was the catheter from the dialysis eroded through his superior vena cava and he bled out.
Oh,
So in the heart, it was something that we didn't even expect.
right.
They were able to, resuscitate, patch the hole in the superior vena cava, but he had lost the majority of his blood. He was on life support. So it was for 3 days and they said that there's no brain activity. And so we had to let him go. But yeah, that was,
Yeah, just so devastating.
he's such a fighter and I really believe that he could have made it through. I mean, it would have been a really tough road for him, but I was ready to, be there for him, whatever support.
Uh-huh. Of course you were, because that's what he had kind of always done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what he'd always done. He'd been able to go through all of these surgeries and all of this stuff. And because how old was he at this time?
27.
Yeah. So 27, not even close to what you thought you were going to get, right?
No.
And you knew obviously he needed this heart surgery, but it seemed like the surgery went well. I mean, obviously things were taking longer to recover, but it didn't seem like this was going to happen, certainly.
Yeah. It was almost as if I stepped out of my body and I was looking at somebody else's life. It wasn't even mine.
Yeah.
I don't even know. It's undescribable. It
Yeah.
is, but
Well, let's talk about your grief journey then and what kind of happened next and things like that.
I had incredible support. My siblings, they were all there for me. And I've had very dear friends and people who knew Keenan. Just the support was incredible. If I didn't have that, I don't know how I would have made it. Keenan and my daughter lost their dad in 2015. So I was doing this alone for the very first time, and it was tough. But
Right.
that if I didn't have the support, but eventually they have to go home and they have their own lives. And it's been really tough, Marcy. I don't know, I'm religious. I've always leaned on God,
Mm-hmm.
but this time it really, I feel kind of abandoned.
Yeah.
And it's been a tough road getting that faith back as strong as it used to be. I don't
Yeah.
if and when that's ever going to be. And I feel like a horrible Catholic because of that. But I do, it's really, I don't know. I listen to your podcasts and some of these moms that are talking and I'm like, oh my gosh, they move in a way that's so positive and what they bring to the table and their accomplishments. And I call them accomplishments by doing things for others, whatever that is, to give back in some way, for their kids. And I don't know if I'm ever there. I don't know when I'll be there. It's been 2 years now. And
Yeah. But that's okay. That's okay.
you know,
And you're right. It is a roller coaster. And I mean, it's normal that your faith is just rocked to the core. It really is. I mean, I felt like my faith was rocked. I just kept thinking to myself, I'm just going to keep being mad at God because that's all I can do right now. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't want to let go of my faith entirely. So I thought, I'm just going to hang on to maybe some anger, because if I keep that and I keep just being mad at God, then I'm still in relationship with God, and then that's more okay than letting go entirely. Mm-hmm. So that's what I kind of went with. And my own pastor said to me, That's okay. You can be angry with God. God can take it. And that actually helped me a ton.
Yeah.
It helped me a ton to give me permission to just be a little ticked off at the whole situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know. I have to say, though, I had mentioned before, I was trying to find something to help me, to
Yeah.
grief, to help my pain. And about a year ago, I was on my phone trying to find a podcast, trying to listen, to try to find something about losing a child, not losing
Yeah.
a person,
Right.
losing a child. And
Mhm.
I had a devil of a time trying to find some outlet. So I put the phone away. I stopped doing that. And I just listen to my music as I go to work and I come home. And my daughter recently made a comment and said, Mom, you're just so sad. And I thought
Yeah.
to myself, do I get therapy? I'm not sure. So here I am in my car waiting to go into work and talk about divine intervention. I put my phone down. I don't know why. I was just, I couldn't find the music I wanted. I put my phone down. I thought, I'm going to go into work. I looked down and your podcast, Andy's mom, popped up. And I'm like, so I decided to go and pick my phone up and just listen to it. And I couldn't stop listening. Podcast after podcast, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the therapy I need. So I have to thank you. That's what connected me with you. I'm
Oh.
like, I just have to thank you because it really it's helped me. I listen again, like I said, to the stories that these parents and they're losing their kids. And I am talking on with when they'll tell
Yeah.
the story and how they feel. And I'm like, yes, exactly. So I feel like I'm in a group therapy session in my car.
No, and I think it is kind of. I do. I do feel like, I've been able to kind of create a community and for people to feel like they belong to something and they're not an outsider.
Yeah.
Because that's what you feel like
Yeah.
when you're a bereaved parent. I think you feel like you don't belong anymore.
No.
You don't belong with your friends anymore. You don't belong with other parents because you feel like I'm not the same parent I was. I'm a bereaved parent. And even though you have another daughter, I have other kids. It's not the same. You feel somehow like a failure as a parent because you had a child die, which I know every non-bereaved parent would say, that's kind of dumb. Why do you say that? It's not your fault that your kid died. Mm-hmm. But yet I think we all feel like a little bit of it maybe is our fault.
Yeah.
Right? Because your ultimate job is to keep your kid alive and you didn't do it.
I feel incredible guilt. Incredible guilt.
Yeah.
I go through the scenario of him going into the hospital. Should I picked a different hospital? Should I picked a different doctor? Would this have not happened? Then if there's so many.
Right. The what if.
Mm-hmm.
You go through all of those in your mind and you've made every decision. At the moment you made it, it was the best decision you could have, but you second guess them all when you've had a bad outcome like this. I think it's just human nature to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you talked too about when you were listening that you listened to somebody whose book you had read too.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Dolores Cruz. So I was listening to her story. I just saw Eric. I didn't put two and two together until I started listening to her story. And I'm like, oh my, I know that story. I read her book. And this was way before this even happened. I bought her book a long time ago. I read it, a flight going out somewhere that I think Arizona and a flight going back. I did it in 2 days. I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't put the book down. It was fabulous. She sounds like an amazing woman.
Yeah, she is an amazing woman.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's funny because then, then all of a sudden you listen and then they're like, oh my word, there she is.
I know the person. I read her. Yes. Yeah. Like we're a sort of a circle of, I don't know, a family in a way, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I also wanted to ask you about, when Andy died, it was really a lot on the local news here. So I kind of felt like in some ways I go to the grocery store, everyone's like looking at me. Everyone knows that I'm the one whose kid died in the car accident. And they had all these pictures of Andy singing, videos, all this stuff. But I feel like that must have been a different level for you, because I noticed when I, obviously got on and I started watching his super cool videos. Well, the next things I'm seeing are the news articles on his death and the news stories there. So how was that for you? Because I felt like for me, it was really hard, but you had it on a whole different level.
It didn't bother me. I'm glad that the higher level acknowledged Keenan, because, like back to a lot of people had some really mean comments about Keenan, and, they were really mean, and how he ignored that and just moved forward. And I'm glad that they did that at that level. And, we had some, not Katy Perry, but some celebrities who did reach out and make comments giving their condolences, which was really nice. Because there were, Keenan took, I think the 50 Cent, it's called Down on Me, and it's by Jeremiah. He put that record into I think it was a platinum status. He's got a platinum record in his bedroom, and a half naked picture of Katy Perry over his bed. But
oh dear me.
but it's on her. I think it's one of her album covers. So I'm glad that people acknowledged.
Yeah. I would say there's kind of good and bad in some ways, because I think back to, and I've said this on the podcast before, that, when that happens, it feels like your world has ended. And in some ways, like, I'm going to the grocery store and I just want to, like, scream to them, don't you know? Don't you know that the world just ended, right? Don't you know that this is the worst day ever? Because for them, it's just a normal Wednesday. So I guess in that way, you did get a little bit of that, didn't you? You got a little bit of...
I did.
It wasn't just a normal whatever, Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever it was for you. It was a day that you should acknowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Just hearing his name again, you're the one who brings that name up. It's not, you don't hear it anymore. It's not a part of a conversation. People stop talking about your son. It's unless you bring it up. So I try to keep Keenan's name, and even my family conversation with my daughter.
Right.
I have to. And, his room is exactly the day that he left. The water bottle is still, and this is probably bad, his water bottle is still half full. It's still on his nightstand. A dirty sock is under his bed, just the way he left it. It's really hard. The room smells like him, and that's the only memory I have. I don't think I can ever change that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's...
Well, I mean, you say that, and I'm looking. I can lean over, and I see the one dirty sock on the side of his dresser that I never picked up. Right? Because his laundry hamper was full. He had laundry all over the place. I did eventually put it in the hamper, and it smelled like him for a long time. But then eventually it didn't. And when it didn't, that's when I washed it again. But I missed one sock.
Yeah.
And there it sits now. 6.5 years later, the sock still sits there inside out.
Okay.
And obviously he tried to throw it in his hamper, and it missed, and it bounced, and it hit the side, and I never noticed it. And I come in here, I do my podcast all the time. I'm working in here, and I get up and I just walk past that sock. I walk past his 8th grade. They've got those assignment things where they're supposed to write their assignments in it. It's still sticking out from underneath his dresser that he never did anything with, because he was supposed to be starting the 9th grade. We never threw away his 8th grade thing, and it's probably mostly blank because he wasn't very good at writing down his assignments. But there are things that are just still sitting how they were that day.
Yeah. I know I don't, like I said, I don't think I'll ever remove that. I know somebody had made a comment, my gosh, I would pack up the stuff, use the room. I'm like, oh, I please,
Oh, no.
I can't.
I mean, I use the room now, and I'm super glad I use the room like this. I really am, but I don't change it. We just added a table that sits in front of his bed, and that's what we've done. And everything else just looks the same, but it's what I need it to be, right? It's just what I needed it to be.
Yeah. I thought about getting a chair and moving it into Keenan's and room and just sitting there and, just sitting there and spending time with him. But I didn't know if that was the right thing to do for me. I spend a lot of time with his door, the house is, I'm alone right now. My daughter moved to Scottsdale, but his door's closed. And I think because I don't want to get rid of the smell. And if I,
Right.
you're holding on to everything. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, in the laundry, I had a friend of mine say later they put the laundry in Ziplocs so it would never lose the smell, which was a good idea. I wish I would have done that, but I didn't. And it's funny because we were all different in this house. Like my daughter wanted his door closed, and I wanted it open. I don't know why I wanted it open. I feel like when it's closed, it just meant that he was like in there sleeping or studying or doing something. And especially at the beginning, I needed it open to remind myself he wasn't there, because otherwise it was like he was in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, my daughter hated walking past his open door, to the point where after my foster son Valeriano moved out, she asked to have his room in the basement. She just couldn't walk past his room anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It was just too hard.
We all grieve differently. I understand that. And my daughter is kind of like your daughter. I think if she doesn't see the door open, he's still there with us. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's what she needed. And honestly, it's funny because it's been more recent now that she's talking more about him, and I think maybe starting to do a little more of her own grief work. Because I think for a long time it was just, I just can't even talk about it. It's just too painful to even talk about.
Oh, yes. It was hard to go through the notes to come on here, because that I had to go to his last day of his life and write down some things that I remembered. And I don't know.
Yeah. Right. It's hard to go back there.
Yeah.
I do a support group through Starlight Ministries, which I do love. I love doing that. And every session, so we do 6-week sessions, primarily 6-week sessions. And on the second week, you have to tell the story. And overall, it's good. I know it's good, and I know it's healthy to be able to tell that. And I know that it helps me process my grief a little more every time. But it doesn't make it easy to do that. Because you're there back in that space again, and that painful day again, that worst day ever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to put yourself in the worst day ever.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go and see Keenan as often as I could at his grave site. And then it got to the point where, I'm in tears every time I go. And I'm like, I don't know if I need a break. Is this healthy? Should I be here every day? So I'm starting to question what I do. Is this good for me? I don't know. I live in the same house. His room is there. I'm alone. I'm really close to his grave.
Yeah.
Sometimes stepping out, I feel better, just to give myself some relief. I don't even know if that's the word.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, I think just stepping away from it, it's just so heavy.
Yes.
Right?
It is.
It just feels so heavy, and you need to do something to help make it feel a little bit lighter for a time. And
Yeah.
that can be different things, right? And it can look different for different people.
And Christmas is going to never be the same for us, just because he died the day after. In my eyes, he died the day after Christmas, even though he
Oh, he did.
for 3 days. You know, they were waiting for brain activity, and they said they'd like to wait for 3 days. But when you're on that, I forgot the name of it, but you're on life support, and you walk in there, and he's not breathing, and his eyes are fixed.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
Yeah, I can see why you would not think of that as the day, right?
yeah, Christmas is very difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
But I found something, you know, I was going through my drawers, and I don't know about you, but certain things pop up where it's like, whoa, did somebody send this to me? So I have this little picture. I should show it to you, but
Oh, yeah. Okay.
this is me.
Okay, I can't read the little bubbles, but you've got little
But
bubbles with them saying something.
I love you, Mommy, and I'll be with you always, no matter what happens. And then this is me. I love you too, and I'll be with you too, Keener Bean. And then he's got a little heart. Keenan. P.S. I really, really mean it.
So he drew that,
He drew this.
and you kept it all those years too.
Yes. And I came across it. I'm like, oh, is there some deep meaning in this? I guess.
I think so.
I
think
just,
so. That's beautiful.
I know, isn't that sweet?
I want you to read that one more time. Can you read that one more time?
Sure. This is Keenan saying in his little, I love you, Mommy, and I'll be with you always, no matter what happens. XXOXO. And then this is me saying, I love you, and I'll be with you, Keener Beanie. I used to call him Keener Beanie. And then his little heart. And he's got this little heart with 2 people hugging. We were close.
Yeah.
And says Keenan, I really, really mean it.
I just love that. It reminds me very, in some ways, of that picture that Andy drew of himself and didn't draw of himself, that he drew our family. Remember, I've said this before. So Andy drew a picture of our family, but he didn't have 5 people in the family. He had 4 people in the family. And then I questioned him who wasn't in the picture. And he said, I'm not in the picture, Mommy, because I'm going to be in heaven. I'm not growing up all the way.
Yeah.
And that reminds me very much of the hymn that saying, I'll always be with you no matter what happens. I mean, what kid says that? You know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
It's just,
that was like a message. It was just what he said in it is, I'm like, am I reading into this? But it is very strange. I came across of it. It's been in my drawer for years. And I'm like,
right. And you didn't think anything of it probably at the time, but now it means something totally different.
Yeah, it does. Mm-hmm.
But it does give you some comfort, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to always say I love you to him at the end of the night, at any end of a phone call. Always told both of my kids that I love you. You just never know if we have tomorrow. But I'm like, gosh, did I tell him in the hospital before I left that night? Did I love you? Because I wanted him to know that I loved him. But then I came across this, and I'm like, I think he knows.
He knew.
Yeah, I think he knows.
He knew.
Mm.
Of course he did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He knew how much you loved him. So, other thoughts you felt like you wanted to share today? Maybe bits of advice to other parents?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I think with everything in my experience as of today, I think you have to give yourself a break. And I don't know, I've read so many things about grief, but don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you're 2 years out, 6 years out, 8 years out, 12 years out, and you're still grieving. It's okay. I wish somebody would.
It's okay, and it's normal. It's not just okay, it's good, right?
I want somebody to tell me that's okay for me, because there's days that I feel like it was just yesterday.
Yes.
Normal. And you almost feel like you're out on an island by yourself and you're all alone and no one knows what you're going through. But I don't know. I like support like what you offer, Marcy, is just incredible. And you can't go into a therapy session with somebody who lost their grandmother at 90 and then you've got your child. I don't think the takeaway would be the same as what we're experiencing right now with you. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's difficult. I mean, I've tried that, right? I've done grief share at my church and it's really hard.
Mhm.
It's so funny because I was just talking to someone the other day and they're in a grief share and it's all bereaved parents. And I thought, that I think I could do. I think I could do a grief share with all the bereaved parents. But when I have tried grief share, I am the only bereaved parent. And it's just different. It's just so different. And I know it is extremely difficult to lose your spouse and life partner. And it's obviously when it was devastating when I was young and lost my mom. And these are not easy things, but it's just very hard sometimes to relate when it's so, so different.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that some of the grief books that I've read has been really good. I was sort of struggling with I went and saw a medium, and I don't think that's the path that I wanted to go. I don't know if I trust that. So I think if you've got some sort of like a connection with God, I think that really helps also.
I think there's no question it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it does give you a sense of hope.
Yes.
And I really feel for those who don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know how I don't know how I'd make it if I didn't feel like I had a sense of hope for seeing him again.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And
that would be really, really difficult for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. And I look forward to that day. I can't wait.
I know.
In time.
I know.
I've got a daughter and I want to see her through, her older years, but I definitely can't wait.
I know. It's funny. Yeah, I totally get that. And other bereaved parents get that when you say that. You're not saying, making a suicidal statement, right? That is not what you're doing.
No.
But you are excited for it. I am too. Yes. I'm excited for it. I'm not going to, go do anything about it to make it happen sooner. But it is an exciting idea of the day happening at some point in time. Yeah. And to think about the fact that each day we live does bring us a day closer. Mm-hmm. Because it's easy to get focused on how many days out it's been and that it's 6.5 years or that it's 2 years or all of those. It's really easy to count those days.
Uh-huh.
But if I remind myself that I've also am a day closer, I'm a day further, but also a day closer to seeing him, and that it's always been a finite amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like God has always known exactly how many days it is from Andy's death until my death.
Yeah.
God knows that. And I'm just moving along the timeline and I'm not changing that. Like nothing I'm doing is going to change those number of days. It's just I'm further along the timeline and closer to the one end. And, whether I'm halfway there or not even, a quarter of the way there, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it does help to know that it's a day closer.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Keenan. I loved being able to hear even more about him than just what I saw online. So that was fun for me, and I appreciate so much talking to you.
Oh, thank you, Marcy, for having me again. It was so nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was great to meet you.
Yeah, it was great to meet you too.
All the podcasts, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk to her.
Thanks for listening. If you found this helpful and would like to support the podcast, please leave a 5-star rating and comment. To help financially, you can type Andy's Mom, one word, to the number 53555. This provides a link to GiveButter, which allows donations through PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, or credit cards. GiveButter will provide a receipt of your tax-deductible donation. or you can visit the donation page at andysmom.com/donate. Always Andy's Mom is a registered 501c3 and can receive donations through Thrivent Financial and Benevity. Marcy loves hearing from listeners. Please feel free to reach out to her via email at marcy@andysmom.com or on the Instagram or Facebook Always Andy's Mom accounts. Sign up for the email list to get weekly episode links as well as pictures of Marcy's guests and their children. Together, let's work to inspire hope, one day at a time.